This episode was helped brought to you by our newest sponsor, Kalona Brewing Company. They're a brewery out there in Eastern Iowa. So if you're in the area, make sure to stop by Kalona and check out their brewery. Great food at the restaurant there, great beer, obviously. If you're in the Midwest, check out any Hy-Vees. I believe they carry the 6-packs, and they have different types of flavors. So you guys are going to want to, definitely try that out. And I think throughout this whole process, Fishing Kid and myself for Beerfish Fanatics, we're going to be doing some giveaways here and there. If you guys can go ahead and tag us here and there with your Kalona beer. Thank you for joining us at Beerfish Fanatics. And this episode is actually brought to you by Whisker Seeker Tackle.
So make sure you guys go to whiskerseeker.com for all your catfishing gear.
Enjoy the episode, guys. So welcome to another episode of Beerfish Fanatics. This is Grandy with Ma Pa Fishing. We have
Kit with the Fishing Kit YouTube channel.
And today we're actually pretty excited because I know Kit really wanted to get you on here, and our guest today is David Wyner, and he's the owner and operator Chasin Cats. It's a guide service here in Central Iowa, and Fishing Kid's been really huge into catfishing, and he got me into it now. And what better way to learn more about chasing catfish than the man himself? So thank you so much, Dave, for joining us. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Today, I am drinking a, just so everybody knows, I don't know if they can see, it's the Millstreams Brewing Company out there, Amana. Did I say it right? Amana, Iowa? Amana.
Sounds right.
Okay.
Amana.
Man, if I butchered that, sorry, guys. I'm drinking the Back Road Stout, oatmeal stout. So it's nice and blizzardy outside, so I figured what better way than to drink a nice warm stout. So what do you got, Kit?
I have one from Iowa Brewing Company from out in Cedar Rapids, and it is their Surf Zombies IPA made with Iowa hops.
There you go. We've had that one before,
I think I've had it before. Oh, there we go. Yeah, what do you got, Dave?
I have the pineapple bubbly
Oh,
and the Whisker Seeker koozie.
Ooh, nice. There you go. And I don't know if you're aware, we're sponsored by Whisker Seeker now, so that's awesome to have you on here with us and joining us on that. So cheers.
Oh, I just cut my fingernails. I'm having a hard time over here.
Hey, don't worry. I just completely forgot that this is not a so this is the thing about beer. Says they have these things called nitro, right? Nitro stouts, because they infuse it with they force it to have these nitrous. So when you do a hard pour, it doesn't foam over, right? That's how you're supposed to pour it. Well, I decided to do it on this one. I forgot that it's not nitrous. It's not a nitro. And I just completely foamed all over the floor here. So nobody can see it. So that's good stuff, man. My wife is going to kill me.
I did not know that about the nitro thing.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because if you go they have these beers. I think like Guinness does it. Actually, I think a lot of Left Hand Brewing, they have one out there in Denver, Colorado. That's called a nitro stout. And you just, when you pour it, it says pour hard, and they literally mean you just flip it over and just let it pour out. And it's pretty cool. You kind of see the chemical reaction and everything on it, and it doesn't overflow like what I just did on this one. So don't do that one, guys. But yeah, it's good beer though. Love the stouts, man. But all right, man. So let's tell us a little bit about yourself, man, David, because I don't know if our listeners know. I'm pretty sure they're gonna want to know, because I think we have a lot of catfish listeners now, so they're gonna want to know what is Chasing Cats all about. What is David all about? What do you do, man?
Sure. So my name's Dave Wyner. I own Chasing Cats Guide Service. That's a Central Iowa fishing guide service that we offer. Fish Saylorville, Red Rock, a few other small lakes around here. But it's mission driven on having a good time and educating people on how to go back to their home waters and catch fish and do it successfully, as well as have a good, safe trip. So that's kind of the recap of the guiding. A little bit about my personal life. I've been in the fire service for about 14 years now, and I was a firefighter paramedic for a long time. I'm going on 6.5 years as a fire inspector for a local department here. And so I do code enforcement. I work part-time doing that, and then I guide part-time in the spring, summer, and fall months. In winter, I'm just kind of taking some time off, recouping, hunting, doing some ice fishing, stuff like that. So that's it in a nutshell. I've been married going on 18 years, and I have a daughter who is going to be 16 in August.
Nice.
Oh, gonna be driving, huh?
Now she's already got that permit, so I'm co-piloting with her quite often.
Mm.
Good times. I don't have to worry about that for a while. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You can't see the gray, but you can probably see it in here from.
Oh man, thanks, Dave. You got. I can't wait now, man.
Yeah, I actually took my nephew out driving a couple weeks ago, right before the snow hit, and he's probably sat behind the steering wheel twice. And then, but it was like a couple years ago, so it was a long time. So he was basically fresh. Wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad.
Still a little nerve wracking. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Once my nephews and nieces, even my daughters, when they're old enough, I'm gonna be a little like, man, I'm gonna be in the passenger seat. Probably, I'm gonna be white knuckling sitting in the passenger seat, man. I have a feeling that's gonna happen, but oh well.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, like you're going up the hill on the roller coaster feeling the whole
Yes.
time. Yeah.
All right, Dave. I wanted to ask you, you guide mainly for catfish, or is it just specifically catfish, or is there other species that you go targeting?
We had a little breakup there. Could you just repeat the question? You said mainly catfish, and then that was where you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering, is there any other species you guide for? So like why catfish, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Okay. So that is all I guide for. There has been a few weeks in years past where the catfish spawn is pretty hot and heavy, and the bite's a little harder to dial in and get them to cooperate. But that's usually a good time to go out for walleyes. So in years past, I've done like 3 or 4 weeks of walleye trips, and there hasn't been a lot of people that are wanting to do it, but there's been enough that I'll continue to do that as long as I have the availability to do it and the fish are cooperating.
Makes sense. Do you go after mostly channel cats, or do you go after like flatheads too, or is there any, or is it doesn't matter, man? Whatever catfish is biting.
Yeah, everybody's got this fascination with flatheads. They're a very cool fish. I'm not knocking them by any means, but it's like muskie fishing. Muskie is a fish of 10,000 casts. You can sit out flathead fishing for hours and hours and hours, and maybe have a bite, maybe catch a fish. And what you do is if you catch one, generally it's a great fish. But I just don't have the patience to sit in one spot, or I don't have the boat really to go on the rivers anyways. So I focus on channel cats because I'd rather have, a fish every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes. That you just don't know what the next roll of the dice is going to be. It could be a 5-pound channel cat, it could be a 15-pound channel cat. But it's generally consistent action, and you're always constantly looking for the active fish. So for me, that's a better fit than sitting and playing. Is a fish in this area? Are they going to bite after an hour, 2, 3 hours, whatever? It just isn't my flavor. But for those that do it, kudos to them, and those that do it well, bravo. But it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about flatheads and everything, so that's why I kind of wanted to ask. I mean, can you guys help me? Are they only really located in the rivers then? Are they not really located in like lakes or ponds or anything? I don't know. So
it depends on, one, if anybody stocked a pond with them.
Mm-hmm.
I know a few ponds that are stocked with them, but generally they are, a river native species. So that's where you're going to find it. But you have to keep in mind, like lakes/rivers can be almost the same thing. So when you're talking about Sailorville, it's really just a river. Even though it's in a lake basin, it's fed by the river, and in my opinion, you're fishing the river. Because you could get anything that's in the river is going to be in that lake. Same thing with Red Rock. It's just downstream.
Gotcha.
So how do you come up with the strategy? Let's say you got a client for today. What's your game plan usually when bringing clients out?
I don't know if I want to walk you through like the whole thing, but I guess I'll start at the start, and you can tell me if I veered off or not. But
Oh, it's okay. You just do your thing.
yeah, I think it's important to at least note it, you know. So
Mhm.
I'm always there at least 10, 15 minutes early, and I'm getting the boat ready. But even before that, at my house, I'm getting everything. I test everything, make sure the battery voltage is good, trailer wires are good, so I don't get pulled over and be 20 minutes late. You know, just little things like that.
Mhm.
Bait's good, batteries are good in the boat, all the little details, right? So then when I get there 10, 15 minutes early, I'm getting things set up so that when my clients show up, it's a real quick explanation of kind of what I expect for them and what they should expect from me. And then we're launching the boat and we're going. So I'm letting them know right off the bat that I'm different than a lot of guides. My thought process is I'm taking two new friends out fishing for the day, and we're going to go have the best time that we possibly can.
Mhm.
And I'm going to give you the best education that I can possibly give you. And when we catch fish, that's just an extra bonus. So I have them do things like help back the boat in or park the truck, and it kind of gives them a little bit of a buy-in too, that they're not just another number or another just random person, you know, on the boat. We're working as a team and putting it together. So part of that is also if everything is stable. Now I'm going to kind of swing this over to the actual fishing part of it. Last year, everything was stable for almost all summer. So fishing was just a slam dunk. There was no, it didn't take a lot of strategy to do it well. The weather was good, the water levels were good, and the fish stayed where they wanted to until there was something that changed where, you know, weather-wise or storms or whatever the case is that changed where they wanted to be. So I knew that the majority of the time the fish are going to be in this area or this area. And I'd go out and we'd spend, you know, 10 minutes and we'd run site imaging, and I'd show them what I'm looking for and how the site imaging works. And if they wanted to go more into detail on that, you know, we'll do like a sonar lesson. And then when we go fish that area, I'll say, see, those are like the area of fish where we started marking them. And this is about where we stopped marking them. And then we fish that. And it's generally true to pace, where we start catching them when we started marking them and we stop catching them when we stop marking them. So that's my strategy is really just getting with the client on a one-on-one before we start, and then two, making them be part of the team, and then three is just doing a small search to make sure that nothing happened weird from day to day and the fish are still there. And then we work that pattern until it doesn't work anymore, or we decide, hey, you know what, that's a lot of 4 or 5 pound fish. Let's go see if we can get some 8, 9, 10, 11 pound fish, and then we'll go move on to another spot. But it's a different strategy, and this is where a lot of people fail. It's a different strategy when you have drastic swings in the weather, like barometer changes, storms. You know, I don't know if you guys watched the video that Spencer and I did on the water last year.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
I watched it.
I seen it.
But fishing was fabulous, and I told him, hey, come on out. There's no effort involved with this. The fish are in the same spot every single day. We're doing the same thing. And the day he went out, it was like 25 degrees colder. I mean, he was wearing a sweatshirt and it was chilly, you know, and those fish moved. And it was just a drastic overnight change in weather. And it took a while to figure out, okay, they were here, where did they go? But once we figured it out, I kind of played old school on that, just real basic thinking and not too advanced. And it really paid off. And we hit like 3 in a row that were, I think, probably over 10 pounds just as a triple.
Well, yeah, the triple, right? When you guys caught 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just going back to old school mentality of like, okay, the fish want to be warm. They're used to being warm. It got cold overnight. It's cold in the morning. My mindset on that one was, let's go fish the west shore bank on the rock side because the sun's going to hit that first. Makes sense. And it's going to start warming it up first. And we went over there and did really well.
Now, I just want to know, you as a guide, and I think Fishing Kid and myself, we've had several episodes about technology nowadays and everything. Do you see, everything from the sonars, everything from, the types of fish finders that are out there and everything? I mean, do you see the use of that gonna affect fisheries at all? I don't know. I mean, as a guide, I mean, I'm sure you use it all the time. It's not a guarantee. We always say it's not a guaranteed catch, but it helps in regards to helping, cut the fish finding time, I guess you can say. But I'm just wondering, do you think that's going to affect like any fisheries or anything like that?
I don't think so. And I think that a lot of that really just goes down to the fact that the majority of the people out there. So if you're going to have an impact on fishery, you got to look at the majority of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a few people that really know how to dial things in and really know how to use every aspect of their sonar that's available to them. So the average person is going to look for a pot of fish or a few fish here and there. Let's say you mark 20 fish. You might get 2 of those fish to bite. But it all really comes down to what's the presentation like? Are you using the right bait? Is your leader line the right length? That's almost like a tongue twister. And it's just, there's a lot to it. So, you can have the best sonar. You can have something down there that says flathead, cat, crappies, wipers, whatever. But if you don't throw the right thing or present it the right way to them, it really makes no difference. But then you also have the other people that can dial that in. And I can go into a whole lesson just on sonars, but there's a lot of tips and tricks that I use before I even look for fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, man, I don't want to start down a rabbit hole and end up 40 minutes on that, but there's so many advantages that you can use that isn't actually what your sonar is showing you, but it's like your history and your lake maps and understanding the biology of the fish. So yeah, I can't give all my secrets away, but
I know that's what I was like. All right, we're getting some good stuff now, Kit.
Right.
One thing I'll tell you is mark every fish that you catch for like the first 3 years that you catfish, and that's a history because you can go in and look at all of those waypoints and see dates on them and stuff like that. At least most sonars you can, and that can start. I can sit on my phone and pull up active captain, and I can look through my waypoints and see like, okay, in April I caught fish in this type of water and this type of structure, and then if I go fish in April, that's where I'm going to go to. Just a teeny teaser of what some of the secrets we use.
He knows what he's doing for a reason, man.
But a lot of people don't think about that, or
That's true.
It's a tool I use often.
It's the little things that I guess create the casualer versus like someone such as yourself, like somebody that does it professionally, or like even the hardcore guys, they pay attention to those little things that just your average Joe wouldn't even think about.
Yep.
And you were saying you use active captain, so you got a Garmin?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just picked up a live scope not too long ago.
Fished with live scope last year.
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't want to like be the downer, but I wasn't really for me. It was interesting at times, and actually he ended up taking it back. It was interesting at times to see where fish were and see how they reacted to presentation. We mainly did it for walleye fishing and crappie fishing.
Yeah.
If big fast, did they come closer? Did they shy away? Stuff like that. But what it didn't change was knowing that fish were going to be in certain spots. And to me, okay, I don't need to, it's nice to kind of see how they react to it, but it's not helping me find any more fish than what I could find without it, because I know that where they're going to be at a certain time of the year. And so then it's just kind of a matter, in my opinion, of color, bait, depth, presentation. But there's no reason why they wouldn't be there if they were there in similar conditions a year ago or 2 years ago and so on. Now, I don't know. For ice fishing, that might be different. One thing I see though, and you guys are going to laugh, because when I ice fish, I took like the last 2 years pretty much off of ice fishing. I just got so like go fishing all the time that I wanted to have the winters off to do some hunting and do some different things and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But when I go ice fishing, I might drill a total of 4 holes, and that's it. And I always catch fish. And I don't mean that like a bragging way, but it always works. But I have my GPS with me, and it's got lake maps and and stuff on it, and it's got my waypoints. but it cracks me up when I see people out there with their live scope drilling a hole, and they got a buddy out like, 30 feet out, drill there, and and then they go fish on it, and of course, like the fish are gone, and then they spend all this time just going from area to area chasing the school of fish, and they don't catch fish. But you have to keep in mind that like the small ponds, I don't go fish massive lakes in the wintertime. I just go fish small local urban stuff. Those fish are always going to be making a circle. They hardly ever stop in an area. And if they do, it's for a very limited time, maybe 10 minutes, and then they kind of just drift on to another area. So it's kind of like cost versus reward. You're going to spend all this time chasing the schools of fish and doing different things. Oh, you drilled too far, 10 feet out too far, drilled, 10 feet in type of a deal. And I'm sitting here on like, I might move once or twice. I drill 4 holes. If I can't catch them in 4 holes, then something's wrong. And I got a pile of fish, over there. So I don't know. It's a decent technology, and it's good for maybe like spider rigging crappies. I think would be killer for it. Just because you might be off by 10 feet to the right or left. And if you could maybe go over that 10 feet, it'd be fine. But for catfishing and for walleye fishing, it did nothing but cause a little frustration and wondering why.
That's interesting. No, that's good info, because you don't look at it in that sense, as a cat fisherman or walleye fisherman, but totally makes sense now. If you already know where they're at,
Yeah, you're spot on with the because I found myself doing it. It's like I'm constantly looking for something, like with the live scope. I'm drilling. I don't like what I'm seeing, so I just point around like, hey, I like that thing over there. I'm gonna go over there, drill over there. There's no fish over here, so I'm constantly looking for stuff, and I find myself not fishing as much, opposed to just looking for stuff. But once I find what I'm looking for and the fish are there, then it's pretty cool. But I guess you can still do that without the live scope.
Yeah, makes sense. It's interesting though. I mean, it's just technology, new technology. I think people are still trying to, fine tune it, get, use it of how to use it and get better in regards to using it.
I think it would really pay off. Like if you didn't know a lake and you're looking for different types of structures like log jams or rock piles, things like that, I think it would really pay off versus looking for fish and trying to go catch those fish. That there's a log jam down there, there's going to be fish there at some point, within an hour time frame, there's going to be a school of fish that'll move in there. If there's a rock pile down there, if you sit there, at some point, fish are going to go to that rock pile. So I think it's good for, searching a new lake for different types of structures you might not know are there, or seeing exactly, I use contour maps 90% of my time, but seeing exactly how that contour looks. It's different when you look at it so like on a one-dimensional, if you will, screen versus maybe like a 3-dimensional live scope where you can see I thought it was maybe more like a slant like this, but maybe it's more like a drop like that. So, it's got its pluses. I just think people chase fish with it than spend time catching fish.
Makes sense, man. So like I said, Dave, I really started to get into catfishing probably this past year to summer. I mean, I catfished before, but I never really targeted, and it never really, sat there and really just, whether I'm the shore or on my kayak. What would you recommend someone like myself, like say, you know what, I'm going to start catfishing? I mean, recommendation as a, as a professional guide, what would you recommend, whether it's gear, whether specific types of, body of water to target, lures, things like that? What would you recommend to somebody who's really about to, jump into catfishing, and really target? Because like I said, I see, Fishing Kids videos. I see, Spencer's video. I see all the catfish videos. I mean, it gets me excited to see the type of catfish that, they catch. So I want to start getting into that. What would your recommendation be for those people?
Well, I think that that's kind of a 2-part answer. You're a little bit more involved with it than maybe like your first part of your question is, what would you tell somebody who's just starting to
Mhm.
you know, to get started. You have a pretty good grasp, in my opinion, on you could go out and make a great effort on catching a fish, right?
Mhm.
Um, but for somebody who has starting from ground zero and literally is like, I have never went catfishing, what should I do? I think, and I'm going to plug Whisker Seeker here. I mean, I fish for them and they sponsor you guys, but I believe it's a good product. And they have a cat pack now, which is like a basics, like a mini little pack of everything you need to get started.
Hmm.
I'd buy that, and I'd buy a 7'6" medium heavy rod, some weight to put on your sinker slide, and then go catch a few bluegills or go throw a cast net for some shad, and
Mhm.
just start fishing. It's really that simple. There's a few things that you really need to keep in mind, and one of those is keeping the bait elevated and off the bottom. That's a epic fail that people don't realize how important it is. Those fish that are active, they're gonna be up cruising slightly off the bottom looking for something to eat. Your scent's gonna travel further by not having, if this is the bottom and you take a piece of bait that's that big or whatever, everything in Iowa is pretty much a silt bottom. You cast that down, you're going to have your bait, half the bait's going to be covered, the scent is going to be covered on the bottom. And then also that silt that you stirred up is going to start covering the top of the bait. So what little scent is there is going to be covered. Then you have your weight that's maybe 14 inches off the bottom. That hits the silt and it's going to stir it up too. So you've taken a 100% piece of bait that could offer 100% scent in the water. You've initially lost 50% of that right off the bat because it's now sitting in the silt, and probably another 20% by what's filtering on top of it. So you've lost 70% of your quality bait by just not keeping it off the bottom. Little things, right?
Yeah.
The little
Man,
things.
just got learned, man. Love
Yeah.
it.
Speaking of bait, yeah, I don't know if you hop on those Facebook groups. There's a lot of catfish groups, and the question I always see, what's the best bait? Like personally, I'm a hardcore believer the fresh cut bait is the best bait, but I'm always seeing stuff like Kool-Aid chicken, Jello chicken. Yeah, can you share your thoughts on, what's a good bait? Not necessarily the best bait.
Yeah, no, it's easy. The easy answer is you feed the fish what they're used to eating. That's it. All the other gimmick crap, if you will, that you know, hot dogs and pickle juice or some BS crap like that. I don't know, man. It's not for me. I don't follow that. I see that and I usually like to scroll right by, and that's not for me. But you have to keep in mind that catfish in general, up to 5 pounds, are typically scavengers. So they're going to look for something to eat that's easy, and they're not dialed in necessarily into eating other fish at this point. So a perfect example of that is you look at a dip bait, a dip tube, it's about this big, 3 inches probably, and it's about as big around as your finger, and it's got tiny treble hooks on it. So why is it that we fish with cut bait and use a big hook that's the size of the whole dip bait, and dip bait uses a tiny treble hook? It's because that's the type of fish that are going to typically bite that. Is the smaller 5 pound and under fish that are scavengers and looking for something that smells like maybe food or something different to snack on. The whole design is really designed for that. Now I know that by saying that you're always going to have the critic that goes, well, Grandpa caught a 10-pound channel cat on a dip bug or whatever. Just keep in mind that a broken clock's right twice a day. So there's always the exception to the rule, but that's really the mentality behind it. Feed them what they're used to eating. I was actually thinking about, I'm doing a little trout fishing this winter, and I was thinking about taking those trout heads and vacuum sealing them and using those for bait and some of the small ponds while I'm waiting for the docks and stuff to come in. Because I know that the ponds in the metro that they stock those trout in have some killer catfish in them.
Really?
Because here's why, really. If you think about it, most people don't know this. And I didn't know it until I talked to a urban fish biologist that's a friend of mine, Tyler Stubbs.
Yeah, we
said,
know.
you know him?
Yeah. We're trying to get him on the show. Like, yeah, he'd be good for the show.
I can probably make that happen for you. He's a good friend of mine.
Nice.
I said, hey, what's the deal? Do these trout die, every year? And if they do, how come you don't see hundreds of them littering the shore?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, by design, when trout die, their bladder system, they sink to the bottom. Well, if you guys have ate a trout or even felt a trout, they're a really oily, fatty fish like salmon.
Mm-hmm.
So if, let's say, you have 500 of them even that die when the water warms up and they sink to the bottom, what's going to eat those? Generally your catfish. So if they're eating a fatty, high oily fish, they're going to grow massive sizes quickly. So those places that stock trout generally have a good population of 10 plus pounders that are in there, and they're fairly easy to catch if you catch them ice out on something they're used to eating.
Kate, we're gonna have to cut that part out that David just mentioned. FYI, just for the local ponds in Iowa that stocks trout. We don't want.
Just remember, catch and release the big ones.
There you go.
Yes. See, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if you know who that Josh Pig Patrol guy is.
I don't have a clue who that's at.
He's this YouTuber guy, and he posts a few videos where he goes out to trout ponds and catches the trout, and then uses them to catch big catfish. So that makes sense.
Now you got me thinking now, because I kind of want, because see, I still have not caught a catfish through the ice yet. I've been trying, and there's opportunities now. And now what you're just saying, even like you just said during the ice out and everything, I think that'd be a good opportunity to catch some catfish now. That it makes complete sense now when you explain it that way. You know what I mean?
Right. I think though, like when you're catfishing through the ice, generally you're using a little bit smaller piece of bait or a more malleable type of bait, like shad guts or bluegill guts or something like that. But if you catch a trout, and they're super easy to clean, you could get it right there, hook that on like a Whisker Seeker ice cat or tomcat, drop that down there. You'd have that's actually a bloody type of guts, which most fish kind of aren't, that would be a great like double whammy, right? You got a trout, it's already cleaned, and you can use that for catfish bait right there.
I know where I'm gonna go this weekend.
I put up a new ice shack tonight in the house. So.
Oh yeah, what'd you end up getting?
You guys want to see it?
Sure. Go ahead.
All right, I'll swing you over there.
Yeah, just so for the listeners, listening, that who can't see, you guys gotta check this out. But he just looks like he got a new. What is that? A Frabill?
Yeah, it's an Ice Hunter 200.
Nice. There you go, man. Now you're balling now, man. Now you'll be catching some good stuff through the ice here.
I just have a little room in there, and not rely on. I was actually going to do ice fishing guided trips like 3 years ago. I bought all new equipment, and I just, with liability, with insurance, and I'd have people say, hey, I want a group of like 6 people to go. Well, I'd have to buy 4 shacks to get all those people in there. Where am I going to store 4 shacks? How am I going to get them to the lake? Type of a thing. Yeah. It just was something that I decided really I didn't want to get involved with. So I sold all that stuff, did a little bit more hunting than I normally had. And now I'm like, okay, hunting season's over. Ice fishing's beginning. Buy some gear that I got rid of. So that was the idea.
All right, I'm grabbing another beer, guys, if you guys don't mind, because I love beer. I'm doing a Peachtree Blind Fatale now.
I'm doing my pineapple bubbly.
Nice. I'm using the Beer Fish Fanatics koozie with this beer.
You must be thirsty. I'm still sipping away at my first beer.
Kit, when you have 4 daughters that are 8 and under, and they got out of school early because of horrendous weather, and then they're running around the house, you'll understand. especially when I'm working from home, and you know how it is right now, man. So it's all right.
I've heard the stories. It's
all right, man. See, that's why I don't, everybody's like, man, you guys grind a lot of podcasts. I go, man, this is my man time. You guys don't even know, man. This is the only time I get. So I get a chance to talk fishing and drink beer, man. I get super excited every time I get a chance to record a new episode, man. So I wanted to ask, besides catfish, what do you target more? Besides, if it wasn't for catfish, what would you target And what will you go after more? What do you love catching? I guess you can say fishing wise.
Well, I would go after walleyes and perch. Those are my go. Those, if I'm not generally catfishing, that's what I'm fishing for.
Mhm.
And the nice thing about walleye fishing is it's very similar to catfishing, somewhat. So if we're running planer boards, we'll have 6 lines out if we got enough people that we're not going over the legal limit, but 2 guys with 3-line permits, we're running 6 lines. That's a relaxing, easy type of fishing, and it generally works really well, like especially for walleyes in the summertime. I think that works great. But sunrise to like 9:30, 10 o'clock, once the sun starts to get a little height on it, I will go sit over structures and rock piles, brush piles, pallets, whatever, and I'll just vertical jig. And I have a really it's like a $350 Shields jigging rod, but it's so sensitive. I can feel like every grain of sand it feels like down there, and I'm connected with what's on the end of my line, and that gives me a chance to be focused, try to beat the fish at his game, so to speak. So when that fish is just barely nibbling on the end of that rod and I can just feel it, that's when I'm going to try to set the hook and catch that fish. So it's more of a one-on-one type of a fishing, and it's a challenge. And that's what I like about it. Perch are even more of a light biter generally, and you really have to be tuned into what's going on. You can't be spacing off. So it gives me a chance to focus on my abilities and what's going on at the end of the line. And that's why I prefer to do that when I'm not catfishing. You guys got to come out sometime, man. We put a wall up on them out there.
Got it.
Hey, sounds fun.
We had was it 2 years ago? We had 100 walleyes in like 4 hours.
Jeez.
Wow. That's like Canada numbers
I
right
know,
there.
man. That's crazy. Holy cow.
We might keep like 1 a season, maybe 2, everything back. But usually I'll keep 1 at the start of the season and 1 at the end of the season, and give them a chance to do their thing and grow big, or at least let somebody else enjoy them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's respectable, man.
But you have to keep in mind too, like in my family, I'm the only one that eats fish besides my 96-year-old grandmother who loves them. So I've been taking some ice fish home for her.
Nice.
But the last thing I want to do, especially like after a guide trip, is go home and clean fish, and then clean up after cleaning fish, just to be the only one in the whole house that'll eat them. So just as soon throw them back and let somebody else have the fun with it.
Wish I had that issue. My kids, surprisingly, they love fish. Like they can't get enough of eating crispy fish. Like you can ask them, you can ask fishing kid, like, can you get some crispy fish, Dad? Like, because I don't get to go fishing all the time. So I have to, hey kid, did you catch anything? And dude, I kid you not, I showed them all the time. My kids, they love they love filleted fish, they love it battered. They eat it, they just tear it up. I mean, go figure.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives me a reason to go fishing more, right?
Yeah. I just do it because it gets me out of the house and it's somewhat good exercise, over the wintertime.
Yeah, for sure.
At work, I'm pretty much stuck in an office most of the time due to COVID. So
Yeah.
anytime I can get out and move around, even if it's just dragging a shack around or doing something, I'm going to take advantage of it just so I don't go too stagnant from not doing much.
Hey, speaking of COVID, how has that affected the guide service? I feel like you wouldn't have as many clients because people were kind of like wary, or did that even matter?
So I thought the same thing too at the start of the season, because normally it's about now I start booking trips, getting some phone calls and emails. And last year I was getting phone calls and emails until like the first week of March or something, kind of when it became a little bit more of a, hey, this is something to kind of take seriously. And I had probably half my year booked by, let's say, March 1st. I have to look at the dates, but that's a round number. And I thought this is going to be a great year. It's on track to be the best year ever. And then around that first part of March, middle part of March, everything just shut down. I went like 5 weeks without a phone call, without an email. And I'm beginning to sweat bullets because I've got $1,500 worth of boat insurance to pay for, different things that I've got to cover before I could even make a profit type of deal. And I don't want to break even. I mean, it's a business, right? No business person wants to just break even. What I say, about 5 weeks, I would have put it at like the end of April, roughly. And then I think everybody kind of just got tired of like sitting at home or going, hey, vacations are going to be canceled. What can we do that's kind of quick and easy and it's outside? And once the weather got warm and people got a little tired of sitting at home, I just couldn't keep up. I was running 1 trip, 2 trips a day. And what I post on like my Facebook page, the guide page, is not always what our trips are. So like I don't want to be the person that just post, all the time. And people get kind of tired of it. But so I might post like every 3rd trip. But it doesn't mean I didn't run 2 in between there. And I mean, I was just, and then you got to keep in mind that that's a time consuming thing to edit pictures and make a post and make an Instagram post and then make a blogger, post and stuff like that. And then go catch bait in between and go polish the boat and go back. You know what I mean? So it's like one more thing. So I'm trying to do like a 3 to 4 trip post. But anyways, to go back to that is I couldn't keep up. And actually, I want to talk about that here in a second. I felt bad. I ended up turning probably 14 trips away that I just couldn't do just because I was already doing 1s or 2s that day, or they wanted to go in the evening, but I had a guide trip, 6 o'clock in the morning the next day, and I knew I had too much stuff going on, or I was just tired. There's a time frame too where it's like I can't do it. I need an evening or an afternoon, or my kid's got to go to a doctor's appointment or whatever the case is, and I just need a chance to not do it. So I think all guiding season I had like 6 days off, where it was like, what am I going to do today? Go catch bait, for a couple hours and relax. But if you think about it, that's a massive amount of time on the water. And lucky, for us is that water levels were good, temperatures were stable, and fishing was out of this world. So I ran 2 shy of 100 people through my boat this year.
Wow.
That's a lot of early mornings. And
do you go catch bait like on your own before? I mean, like, I don't know how it works. That's why I'm wondering, like, because obviously, you're a catfish guy. So are you catching like bait at night or whatever when you have free time, or how does that work? Or are you just catching it right before the trip, or what do you do?
I try to keep my maximum allowable limit of like bluegills.
Okay.
And so if I go on a trip, let's say it's a 4-hour trip and we use 12 fish, I'll start a number out there. In my mind, I want to go replace those because I don't want to be behind the 8 ball, like inventory, right? I'm not going to catch fish if I don't have the bait for it. You're not going to sell 20 items of inventory if people want it, and you only have 10 because you're too lazy to go place the order and keep it on a full stock shelf. So that's how I look at it. My baits, my inventory, keep it at my maximum numbers that I can legally. And if I have to go fish at 9 o'clock at night and fight mosquitoes for an hour or 2 and catch 6, 7, 8 fish, then that's what I'll do. But usually I'll try to find somewhere before it gets dark time to go do that. And tell you what, I did a little bit. I found out that fish like little Slim Jim pieces, and it stays on the hook good, and your hands aren't like getting all dirty from like ripping worms apart. So I've been using that, and that works pretty killer for those bluegills.
Oh, secret bluegill bait, huh?
It's my version of like Kool-Aid hot dog. Who knows? But it works well.
May have to do that for bluegills.
Yeah, just ahead of time, I'll go get one and put it in a Ziploc bag. They're like a foot long. I can catch 50 fish on that, over days. I'll just take a Ziploc bag, take a palm full, put it in there. And that thing stays on the hook forever, and they like it. So it works out well. But I'm gonna go a little bit further into what we're talking about. And so you guys will be the first people to hear this. So be a little bit of a spoiler alert, since I haven't put anything out there like officially. Being as busy as we were last year and turning those people away, I'm going to expand this year. And so we're going to have another guide that is going to work with me. And they're also going to do multi-species and catfish stuff. And they have a great flathead area that they are going to fish on. So it'll be good because that person's available and in the evenings, in the weekends, where I'm kind of fried by that point. And so we've got things most all by 98% worked out. And then they're going to do the trips that overflow for me, or on days where I'm like, I need a break, type of deal. So
Nice. That's awesome. That's good to hear.
first people to hear that. So
That's awesome. So, like I said, anybody listening to this, gotta come to. I mean, people need to know Central Iowa's got some great catfishing, and that's awesome to hear that you're expanding and you're going to give an opportunity for others to, and then actually it's a good opportunity for you to take a little bit of a R&R here and there though, because I know you get pretty busy.
well, and I'm not afraid to work. I'm not complaining about being busy,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't like losing clients.
Yeah.
If I don't have to. And if I have somebody that I know I can trust and that's going to do a good job, and that I would put my name, on, and they can help me out, and it helps them out, then by all means do it. And I just don't want it to come across though that like, man, I don't want to be busy, or anything, because that's definitely not the case. It's just sometimes there's only 24. Well, all the time there's only 24 hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so much you can do in a 24-hour period. So when somebody says Thursday is the only day that I have to go, and Thursday doesn't work for me, now Thursday might work for me, type of a thing. So that's what I'm looking for by doing this. Is I'm one person trying to take 100 people out a year, and we've got a short amount of time to do that. So this will help with that.
That's awesome, man. Good to hear, man.
Yeah.
It's always a good thing to be too busy.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Very true, man.
So what do you guys, what's next on the docket? You want to go into any more deep stuff, or you want to just
You know what? We didn't actually talk about the actual catching part for catfish. So what techniques are you using? Are you drifting, trolling, anchoring up when you're taking clients out? Yeah, if you could kind of go into that a little bit.
Sure. So everybody laughs when I tell them I don't even own an anchor in my boat. I don't own an anchor, period. If I need to anchor, I use spot lock and a windsock, depending on what the situation is or what the current is or whatever. But it goes back to what I said earlier about patience, and I don't have a lot of patience to sit on anchor. I want to be moving, looking for the next bite and looking for the next group of fish that are actively feeding. Personally, this is me, right? I don't have an hour's worth of patience to sit there and just watch lines in the water. Can't stand it. Can't stand that, man. That's not for me at all. I'd rather just stay home. So yeah, I mean, my technique on catching them is what I specialize in, and that's trolling and drifting. But primarily trolling, which is in a sense basically the same thing as drifting. There's some technique differences, like how to set up drift stocks to keep your boat in a certain position. And there's times where trolling, just the conditions are too bad and you can't go at a slow pace, and so you have to drift. But man, I'll tell you what, throwing drift stocks over the side of my boat is the last thing that I will do, only if I have to. Because I'm running two, like, I think they're 9, I have to look and see. They're like 86 or 92-inch drift socks, something like that. And I run 2 of them. So if you think about it, we got a 19-foot boat, or it's 18.6 or something like that, but it's basically 19 feet. We have almost half of that or more than half of that covered by drift socks. If I'm taking out somebody who doesn't know how to play a fish and land a fish, they end up in the drift socks.
Oh.
And so that's my reason why I hate dealing with them, is just I don't like when a fish gets tangled in it. And I don't like losing a fish because they're trying to do something to maneuver out of the way of the drift socks. And really, if those conditions are that rough anyways, fishing's not always the best. So guys will argue that too. I mean, and I've had days where it's like 3-foot waves, we fished a tournament of Rathman. Me and Matt Davis, the guy that owns Whisker Seeker. And man, that boat was rocking. I mean, I have a video of it. It was just insane, the waves that were out there. And we drifted it and we caught, I don't know, 150 catfish probably in an 8-hour period. It was nonstop.
Jeez.
But that's a rough condition, right? I mean, it's not something I really want to necessarily take somebody who's never been on a boat in before out in. And I feel like I just kind of went all around that topic. But hopefully I got the middle of it, you know.
You did.
I prefer to troll, or I prefer to troll. And even going with that, you know, I had to buy a more specific trolling motor for my boat. So I have the Tarova, but I have the longest shaft Tarova that's available. So I can troll on those choppier days where most guys can't because their bow's coming up and they're pulling the trolling motor out of the water. So, you know, you look at that, it's like $300 more to go that route. And then the mount's like $300 more than just a regular mount. So you're like $600 more into it just to make it work on worse conditions. You got to do what you got to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say, David? I mean, is the best part of being a guide for catfish and the worst part of being a guide for catfish?
Like I said earlier, I look at every trip as I'm taking two new friends fishing. So that's the best part, especially when I take like couples fishing. They're like, oh, my wife doesn't fish, or the wife will say, oh, I fish, but my husband doesn't fish, you know, or whatever the case is. One of the two usually isn't the one that's fishing. And when they hook into that, or they see that like, you know, 7'6" rod just get laid over, and it's like, oh God, this is reality. It's on, you know, type of a thing. That's what I enjoy the most of it. And then we're working together. You know, I say, okay, now I tell them ahead of time. And this is like probably a whole nother show topic, but all the details of actually landing a fish that people fail on and lose so many fish. But I tell them, you know, when the rod bends over, there's a certain way you crank the handle. There's a certain way you take the rod out of the rod holder. And by not doing those things, you will lose a fish 9 out of 10, guaranteed. So I walk them all through it, and maybe like they missed the first one or two because they didn't do what I was telling them, and the rod tip's whipping because they're cranking like a crazy person, you know, or whatever the case is. So there's like so many subtle little details that make it successful. So when I see them put all those pieces together, and then at the end result, you know, I go, okay, we're gonna land this fish together. You know, if I take a step to the right, that's a step. If I tell you to take 4 steps to the right, you need to take steps to the right. And when we all work together as a team, we get the fish in the boat, and we take a picture of them holding it. That's the best part. The worst part is people that show up, I think.
Hey guys, it's Fishing Kit. I'm going to jump in really quick. I know it sounded like Dave said that the worst part is when people show up. That is clearly not the case. We had a little audio hiccup. The worst part is when people show up late. Okay, I just had to clarify that. You know, I didn't want any confusion in there. Anyways, here's back to the podcast.
That drives me insane. I don't know. I think my time is valuable. I would think their time is valuable, but it's aggravating when people show up 20, 30 minutes late and don't call, or, you know, whatever the case is. So you don't want to be the guy that just leaves either, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. There's a time to fish and there's a time to be late. And those two don't go together, in my opinion. So it's aggravating, especially when I got everything ready 20 minutes ahead of time and they're running 20 minutes late, and I'm sitting there for 40 minutes just sitting there. Yeah. Thinking, okay, I got to drop these guys off, and then I've got another group coming. So I got to call the other group and say, hey, you know, we're running 20 minutes late cases, and I don't know, just be on time. It's that simple. Yeah. It's honesty, right? I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, but
no, I agree with you. I'm very difficult for me with the 4 daughters, but I'm slowly teaching them that. No, you gotta be on time. I wholeheartedly agree with you in regards to time is precious, and if you take somebody else's time, and worse, you know, be on time. I agree with you.
Yeah.
You would think since they're paying you,
right?
You would think they'd be like, oh man, I need to get there early so I can maximize my time out on the water, opposed to, oh, I'm half an hour late, so I paid for 4 hours, but I'm shorting myself 30 minutes.
I'd be like, I'm there probably before you. I'm paying for it. You know what I mean? Like you just said.
Yeah, I don't get that either. But I'll just give you this real quick story one time about how some people think, and it blows my mind. I can't figure this. I had a Father's Day 4 years ago, I think it was. And I told these people I'd meet them at the dock. Let's just say it was 6 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I'm there at 5:50, 5:45. I get everything ready, and I'm sitting there, you know, on the tailgate waiting for people to show up, and there's cars in the parking lot. Nobody's coming over. So it's like 6:10, and I text them, you guys getting close? Nothing. 6:15, I finally call. Said, hey, what's the deal? You guys on your way? Get a lot better directions? What's going on? No, we're sitting here in the parking lot having donuts and coffee. We see you. We'll be over there when we're ready. I was like, okay. So I waited for 15, 20 minutes, and they're still having donuts. And so I called them. I didn't know which car they were in because, like I said, there's a bunch of cars in the parking lot, and holidays or Father's Day, the lakes are always busy. So I said, hey, I don't know what you guys' plan is here, but I'm going to go like 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to head out and spend time with my family because apparently you think my time's not valuable. And we have a schedule to keep,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's, we'll be over there in a little bit when we're ready. And it's like 5 or 10 minutes later, and they finally showed up. So the mentality of some people blows my mind. I don't understand how that's an acceptable thing to do when you're paying somebody for their time and service.
Exactly.
But,
it's crazy. Well, I guess they had money to blow. I guess I don't know. It's weird, man. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Stuff like that's irritating, and you wouldn't think about that. Like if you said, hey, I want to start a guide service, you'd never think you're gonna have to deal with the people that want to have coffee and donuts and show up when they're ready while you're there 15 minutes ahead of time.
Oh man, people got to deal with sometimes, but you know what? It's all right, man. You bite your tongue and you just did it, and that was awesome, man. It is what it is sometimes. Oh man, we've been talking for about now. We might have to have David back here again, because I have so much more. You got anything else for him before anything else? Because I know you had a lot of questions for David, so I just want to make sure you get some questions asked.
Fire away if you want. I got half a can of bubbly left.
Did we talk about rigs? What rigs are you typically using?
Well, my favorite rig is the Whisker Seeker Stinger. I love that rig. That's the double hook rig. I use that probably 3 out of 6 rods. We'll have that on there. But I typically always for certain have that on my outside rods. There's a little strategy behind that. So I don't know if I want to give that up yet or not, but we'll see. I'll get going on. I'll talk about this, but it goes into walleye trolling and how when the boat turns, one rod is moving faster than the other.
Okay.
So you getting this? So the outside rod, moves faster than the inside rod. So on a turn, it's like the center of a circle. The outside's going to spin out faster and the inside's shorter, so it's going to move slower. So I always have a stinger on the outside rods. And I start in my head, I'm watching the outside rod when I turn, getting more bites. If so, then I need to pick up my pace. If the inside rod's getting more bites, I'm going on a turn lower, maybe I need to slow down. But having those double hooks on there, when you have a change in speed like that, I think offers more hookups. Whether they bite short, bite long, whatever the case is, I don't know. Maybe it's just superstition too. But I always have stingers on my outside corner rods. But that little nugget, right, that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that walleye fishing years ago, trolling crankbaits for walleyes. That's my go-to rig. And then really, I just like to keep it simple. A rattler and maybe a Versa rattle like that. It's always the same rig, which is kind of nice because if you are walleye fishing, 5 of this and that, and maybe today it's purple and tomorrow it's pink, and then the next day it's chartreuse, and it doesn't matter. It's just giving them what they're used to eating, and from there. So that's pretty much it. It's a Santee Cube style rig, and to keep it simple process, the KISS process, and I don't change it up too much from there.
Yeah, that's a rig I like to use when I'm fishing for cats in the kayak.
Yeah. So I don't know if you fish your 2 rods, but or 3. I don't know how you do that. I can't remember from your videos, but just try that. Or next time you're like in a boat, notice whichever rod when you go to turn, it's a bite. Because I guarantee you, like 9 out of 10 times when we make some type of a turn, we'll catch a fish. It's either on the outside or the inside. You start putting those little pieces together early on in the trip, you're going to realize that, hey, I need to go faster, I need to go slower, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense because let's say you got a fish like creeping behind your bait, and then it speeds up, and he's like, "Ooh, I gotta get it," or the opposite case, like it slows down, and then he's like, "Oh, here's my chance," and then he then he grabbed it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's something to do with their instinct, right? I don't know if their thought process is really that, but it's something that says something changed in the speed. You're going 0.5, 0.5, and now all of a sudden you make a little sharper turn. Maybe that 0.67 on that outside rod is just going to trigger their instinct to go nail it and bite it. Or if they're just trailing behind and it slows down, their instinct says that's what I want. That's what triggers my biology to eat, and that's what I'm going to go for. And if it triggers one, it's going to trigger 50 that day. So
It's those little things we were talking about.
I'll tell you what, though, I mentioned earlier, there's so many people who fail at getting a quality hook set just on, getting the rod out of the rod holder and reeling the fish in. And that first initial 3 seconds determines the next, 5 minutes of the fight. And there's so much, I won't go into that because we want to have something to talk about at a later time. It should be maybe like some of those details, but there's definitely a right and a wrong way to, you can't just go troll a lake and always be successful. It comes down to reeling the fish down, setting the hook, getting the rod out of the rod holder the right way, and reeling that fish in and fighting the fish properly. Because I tell you what, after seeing hundreds of people do it wrong, and I tell them right off the bat, like, don't do this. You do this, it's not going to work. And when they do it once, I'll say, here is exactly what happened. Because from the minute like the rod goes down, I'm watching exactly what they're doing. Again, it's an educational thing. It's not always about putting how many fish you can put in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's an educational thing on, okay, great. Now we got the fish to bite. How from 50 yards behind us to in our hand? There's a right and a wrong way to do that.
We're gonna have to get you back on for that one, David, because I need to know that because I got to get better in what is it, the conversion rate. I think that's my conversion rate in regards to bites and yeah, I suck. So
well, probably something that's really simple to correct too.
I think you might be right. So see, everybody's gonna listen to this like, okay, we got to have David back so he can get a little bit of knowledge on conversion rate. I think that's crucial. I think in any fishing, we all get bites. Everybody gets bites. It's the conversion of taking those bites to actually landing it. You're right. That's huge. So anything else, Kit, man?
Yeah. So if any of our listeners want to get a hold of you, Dave, so how, where can they reach you at?
Well, if you guys are able to type anything in here later on, maybe a link would be good.
Well,
the best thing is probably my website, which is just chasingcats.com. And I own it with the G or without a G. So if you type in chasing with a G, it'll bring it there, or Chasin without the G, it'll bring you there too. So chasingcats.com. You can send me a message on Facebook. It's at Chasing Cats, or you just type in the search bar Chasing Cats Guide Service. You'll see it. Instagram, same thing, at Chasing Cats. And then I have a blogger page that is for all the people who don't want to do the social media platforms but still want to keep up. And there's links to that on my website as well. Can I'll give you my phone number too if that's works, or
sure, go right ahead.
You can call anytime. It's 515-979-9624. And then I'll do a shameless plug for a seminar we got coming up, if that's okay with you guys.
Go right ahead.
So Brad Dirk and I and Ted Ellenbecker are going to do a seminar in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it's March 5th, I believe. I'll have to look it up, but it's either the 5th or the 6th, whatever that Saturday is there, first Saturday in March.
Okay.
And I'm gonna cover this year the basics of trolling and drifting again. And it's gonna have all those details and a lot more. When I'm gonna have some video I can play with that and show people like, hey, look at how this person did something wrong, or or this is the right way to do it, type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's $50 a person, and I'll tell you what, Brad's been a guide on the Red River for several years. That's his full-time gig. So he's going to cover the river aspect of it. I'll cover the trolling and drifting part of it. And then Ted Ellenbecker is pretty much the Yoda of fish biology for flatheads. Nice. That guy knows anything and everything there is to know about them. He's got a video it's like a video book that he puts out. But his and I won't go too far into this, but his seminar that he'll do that day is pretty much based on tagged fish and the studies from tagged fish to show how fish relate to rivers and lakes and where to find them at different times and stuff like that. So it's incredibly educational, based off of fact, not opinion.
Hmm.
And it works pretty much for every fish that's out there. He's got the factors of 3, he calls it. If you line up these 3 things, you're going to catch fish. It doesn't matter what the species are.
Cool. And then you said this is in March?
It's the first weekend in March, first Saturday.
Weekend. Okay, cool. Sounds good, man. So other than that, no, Fishing Kit definitely he'll put all the links and everything, how to get a hold of you, how to, set up some time, and biggest thing, reach out today right now if you guys want to schedule some time for 2021. As he said, he's expanding, so that's badass of you. So you guys have an opportunity to get him on the guide service and everything. So like I said, man, thank you so much. I gotta have you back because I gotta learn some more information. I gotta get some more information from you, David, on the fishing side and become a better angler. I think that's the goal. So like I said, man,
I love talking to you guys, but there's so much to go over that 10 hours, like just barely scratching the surface, So if you guys want to do it again, we'll do it again, and we can go as far down that rabbit hole as you want to go. I'm fine with that. Or we can keep it simple again too. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we could go down into the nitty gritty next time.
Yep. Well, we'll definitely get down to the I want to learn more about techniques and everything, but we'll definitely we'll dive into that. So, but like I said, man, thank you so much for just even giving us the opportunity just to learn a little bit about you, your business, the guide service, everything about your fishing and especially catfish. Because, like I said, I'm getting into it, so hopefully I can get a little bit better at it, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Cool. Thank you. Can you hear me pouring beer?
No, I don't know. I can't hear anything. All right. I'm recording anyways, but I'll record real quick. So here we go. All right. Welcome to Beer Fish Fanatics. And this episode is actually brought to you by Whisker Seeker Tackle.
Oh.
Yeah. Here, we'll do it again. Here, we'll do it again.
Hey, we can always just cut it in there.
Yeah. Well, it's kind
It
of
doesn't
weird.
have to be one take.
True, but it's kind of weird. We'll do it real quick. Because you can just cut this part off anyway when you put it on